First, cushion. Of course, there was a time when I had no meditation cushion. I had no shrine and not even a tiny corner in my home set aside for letting the mind rest. So I'm grateful that I knew enough to find a cushion and a little spot in my office where I could sit. I knew next to nothing about what it was that I was doing or even why. For a shrine, I used the small card that was given to me when I took the ceremony of refuge, which is a traditional way to signal an interest in Buddhism. It had my Tibetan refuge name written on it. And later, my teacher, Khenpo Katar Rinpoche, gave me a small statue of the Buddha. That cushion and the quiet spot in the house itself was a place of refuge, a sign and signal that I was seeking to find somewhere out of the storm of everyday life to get to know my own mind. At that point, I was simply following instructions. I loved my little place of meditation, although I did not really understand what meditation was. It would be fair to say that I liked the idea of meditation better than the actuality of practicing it. And I liked knowing that there was a peaceful place of refuge in my home, in my heart. And perhaps most of all, I loved the idea and the reality of Khenpo Rinpoche, my Dharma teacher. He made all of this possible by presenting in reality something greater than I had ever dared to even imagine in a human being, someone who accepted me just as I was. It was he who made all of that difference, made the difference for me in my life. And that little cushion in a corner changed over time. It became a little homemade round zafu, and then we bought a zabuton, a big wide square cushion for the zafu to sit on. The shrine got larger and larger until it was a separate building outside our home, a building eventually filled with many cushions. That tiny piece of paper with my refuge name on it that used to be my shrine became a large multi-tiered shrine made of wild cherry. The one small Buddha figure became many statues, large and small. The walls of our shrine room were hung with brightly painted tankas. There were Tibetan rugs, incense burners, and a large Tibetan drum. There were even special tables made of black walnut for holding practice texts, and other hand-painted ones that were hand-painted with bright colors. There was a throne covered with the most exquisite brocades, and even a very high throne should the head of our lineage, the 17th Karmapa, ever visit us. Hasn't happened yet. All of this ornamentation was done with only the best intent, to pay homage to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can say that my inside development was not keeping up with the exterior decor. My intent was pure, and I made a good effort, but as far as for progress in meditation, there was very little. I understood that this kind of thing, that with meditation, progress can be very slow, because most of it's one form of purification or another, removing obscurations. I don't question that, and I didn't question the time it took. What I did and do have trouble with is the mental obscurations that accompany all of the Dharma stuff, the stuff that I'd surrounded myself with. I had little to no idea, actually what meditation was, or what its intended results really were supposed to be. Of course, I'd read too many books, absorbed too many tales of enlightenment and spiritual breakthrough. And this was early on, from the late 50s and then the 1960s. This was before meditation as relaxation therapy kind of became common. Back then, the reason we meditate was to become enlightened, whatever that was, and not to reduce stress. One thing that I knew for sure was that I was not enlightened and probably needed to be. At least I wanted to be. I soon learned that aside from my pride in being a Dharma student, that meditating was pretty boring. I didn't really know if I was doing it right, and if I was, then it didn't do much for me. I mostly just sat there. Did it calm me? Not really. I found just how hard it was for me, I'm an active person, to remain still for even a minute, much less for a long time. And back then I had no real guidance. The Zen tradition I was touching into, as well as the Tibetan Lama Chogyam Trungpa that I had met, they all recommend sitting for a long, long time. I guess the idea was that you have to break yourself down to get to any breakthrough point. I could do neither. I did not really break down, and I certainly did not get to any breakthrough point. So what did I get? I think the answer to that was that I got frustrated and bored. That would be a good summary. This was before that I understood that what I was feeling, boredom, tedium, was all part of the process of learning meditation. But back then, I assumed that it was just that I just didn't get it. And I didn't get it. My outer trappings of Dharma, far outstripped my inner progress, which was like, little to none. It was just me sitting there on the cushion until I could find a good excuse to end the session and get back to whatever else I was doing that day. I certainly didn't enjoy sitting, at least after the novelty wore off after a few years. My point here is that meditation is something we practice to build a habit of mindfulness. It's not some blissful experience we have every day. It can be blissful, but likely as not, it's a practice. And it's no different than any other practice, like practicing scales on a musical instrument. Practicing scales is not playing music. Practicing meditation is not meditating, at least not at first.